So we are holding on the bottom of Daf Hey Amid Beis, and we've been talking. We were talking about how people can deposit, the goyim could deposit chametz in the house. Can they? Yes. Can they? No. And we ended up saying, really, you could see the goy's chametz, but if he deposits it in your house, that's already a different story entirely. So this is where we are. Amamar, yochel yamtin. I would have thought that one is allowed to hide his own chametz without selling it or without being mevatel it, nullifying it. I might have said I could just put it away. Since I'm allowed to see other chametz, I could do that with my own. Just lock it away with that thing. Or v'yekabel pikdoinos min anochim, and that he may, what he called, accept deposits from the guy, meaning that he can go ahead and sort of go into business. And if I'm allowed to see their chametz, I might as well take deposits and earn a little money on the side. Talmud loyma lo yimatzeh, you shall not find. This already is going a step too far. So Zakta Gemara, Ha'amrit Reisha, but at the beginning of the Brisa, it said just the opposite. From yours you shall not see. But you certainly can see others, the guys, and those chametz that belong to Hagdish, to the holy, that belong to the Beis Hamikdash, because those don't belong to you. So now you've seen we got a contradiction again. In one hand it says do not take deposits, and here it says it's okay, you can see it. Kasha, says the Gemara, the place where it says you're not allowed to is where you took on responsibility. You take on responsibility. Responsibility is a portion of ownership. That's enough to make it problematic, and now you got to deal with it. The other case is where you did not accept responsibility. The guy comes to you, your neighbor comes to you and says, listen, I need a place. Where to put my stuff? So, and you say, fine, you can put it anywhere. As we're going to see in a minute. It says you could go put it in a room somewhere. I'm not responsible. You are not responsible. That's enough. Where there's no responsibility, then it's fine. You can see it. It's got nothing to do with you. Says the Gemara. Like the story that happened to the people in the town of Mechuzah. It was a case where the chametz was put into the house by the soldiers, the non-Jewish soldiers, and who billeted themselves in the house. So they didn't ask permission. They put their stuff in other people's and Jewish homes. It says, Rabbah, you still have to sell, or you still have to give it. You have to deal with. You have to be mavat. You have to nullify, or you have to give it over to another non-Jew to watch the chametz, the leavened bread. It has to be taken care of. Why? Because if it would get lost or stolen, it would be considered in your possession and you would need to pay. It doesn't belong to you. But the government said, A, the soldiers are entitled to be billeted in your home. 2, they could put their stuff in your home. And 3, if it should get lost or stolen, guess who's responsible? You are to pay. See, the government even back then was very socialist, right? Okay, so, and therefore, since you would be required to pay if it got lost and stolen, that's enough responsibility. It's like it belongs to you, and therefore it's forbidden to be kept, and you've got to deal with it. So this is good, according to the one that says where there's a possibility that it will come to money, that's already considered money. Because at the end of the day, the stuff is still here in the guy's house, right? The stuff is there. So there's no monetary responsibility yet. It's only if it should disappear that the monetary responsibility then comes to bear. But since what it could only says this man the Yoma, no. Since if it would get lost or stolen, you would have a responsibility, even though at this moment you don't have a responsibility, that's enough as if it was your money involved. So now we can understand in such a case, you obviously have to take care of it because there's a certain ownership and process involved. Elaman the Oma. Love, come on and dummy. No, right now the stuff is here. There's no monetary responsibility. If it gets lost and stolen, then there'll be responsibility. So right now, just because it might turn into a monetary responsibility doesn't make it money now. In that case, it doesn't belong to me. I don't have, at this moment in time, I don't have a monetary responsibility. So why do I have to go ahead and sell and take care of this chametz? My ikalamema, says the Gemara, Shani Hoch, you're right. Even according to the Madam, you don't have a monetary. Shani Hoch, the Amalo Yemotz. This is chametz, leavened bread on Passover. It is a problem. Lo Yemotz, you shall not find. We're being extra strict. Now the Gemara brings the story, as in the typical case, from the other side. Ikediami, there's another way of the story. It's good, according to the one who says that just because it might become money now, it's not money. Therefore, I would say I don't have to do anything with this chametz. Therefore, the top of that Bava and Aleph, Hainu the Itzuk lo yimotze. That's the reason why you have the pasuk has to bring. You shall not find, or as Rashi says, mishum de ba'alma, because by itself, lav kamamidami, it's not money now. Because at the moment the stuff is here, it's kro lemema. The pasuk has to come to tell us lo yimotze the gabe chametz regarding chametz mia misased. In other words, but when it comes to chametz, there's still an issue. You're right. It's not money, only if it should get lost. But now it's not lost or stolen, so it's not a monetary responsibility. Doesn't matter. It's enough when it comes to chametz to be a problem. Says the Gemara, but according to the one that says that even though there's no monetary responsibility now, but since a monetary responsibility could be born, if it gets lost and stolen, it's like it's already money now because there is some sort of worry. Then if that's the case, if that's just a basic rule, then I don't need the pasuk to come tell me, lo yimotze, you shall not find. I know it on my own. That I have a responsibility here, that there's the possibility of a monetary responsibility, and that's enough. So I don't need the pasuk to come bash me over the head with the word lo yimotze. Says the Gemara, no, Itzrich, you do. Because the reality is that it is here, and that if the guys came back, you would give them back exactly the stuff that they put. So let's get the case here. I never wanted these soldiers in my house. I didn't want their stuff in my house. So everything was done against my will. They came into my house, they put their stuff in my house. All I'm doing is it's sitting there in the corner. It's sitting there in the corner. Whenever they want to come, they can march in and take it out. I'm very happy for them to do that. Why I would say, therefore, the reality is that the actual reality is that the stuff is here and they can take the stuff back. Therefore, when you really look at the entire story, it's really not in my possession. It's not in my possession. But it's anything but my possession. Kamash Malan says the Torah, no, because there's a might. Because you're worried about it, that it can't be lost or stolen, because then you're going to be out of pocket for something you never even wanted to get involved with in the first place. That worry is enough to create responsibility, and that's the responsibility, and therefore you have to take care of the chametz. Says the Gemara, since we're on this part of the story of where the government comes in with their heavy hand, so which we know something about, unfortunately, says the Gemara, Behema Arnuna, a behema. In other words, there was a tax put into place. Rashi says, Hamelech, the king, Noitel Isur Mina Behema, takes 10% of your animals, from your produce. So there's an automatic 10% in your animals and in your tools. There's a rule that the firstborn animal that's born is always the firstborn animal goes to the kohen. Goes to the kohen. That's one of his presents. That only works if you, the Jew, own that animal 100%. But if you're in partnership with a non-Jew, so there's a portion of this animal that does not belong to you, the non-Jew has no commandment to give, obviously, the firstborn to the kohen. So in that case, we say that there is no din of bechar. There is no din of the firstborn. In a partnership with a non-Jew, there is no commandment to give it over to the high priest, to the king, to the priest, to the kohen. Kol heichad, sagt the Gemara, the matzi misalik le bezuzeh, where it's possible for the Jew to go ahead and pay off the government and say, listen, don't take 10% of my animal. Instead, I'm giving you monetary value. So if the animal's worth $100, I'm giving you $10. You can go ahead and divest yourself of this problem by giving the government $10. There's no doubt that you are subject to the rule of the firstborn and you have to give it over to the kohen. What are we asking? Where you cannot divest. They're not interested in the money. The government over there is much smarter. And they said, no, we want to have a portion in the animal. So whatever money you're going to make from this animal, we get 10%. In other words, they want to go into business with you. What's the din? Amalei Petura. In that case, you definitely have a partner. And since you have a partner, you partner from the rules of the firstborn, giving it over to the kohen, to the priest. But we learned in another brisa, you are responsible, you are chayev to the rules of the bechara of the firstborn. And for the Gemara, Hasim the Motzi Misalakle, the answer is that on the brisa is talking about where you can turn this into not a investment, that the guy has a partnership, a K1, the government has a K1 in your property. Instead, you can pay it off with money. Okay, and therefore you retain full ownership in the animal, and therefore you have the responsibility of giving of the bechar to the kohen. Ikadi Amri. There are others that say no. The story goes like this: Amarava, Behemas Arnuna, a behema which has a tax, a royal tax of 10%, Peturim in a bechar. It's automatically potter. You do not have to have the rules of the firstborn. And this is even though the Jew can divest the non-Jew with a monetary payment. Because at the end of the day, says Rava, why is there a monetary payment? Because the government has a 10% hold on your behemoth. Essentially, the government puts a lien and you have to pay off the lien. The lien exists because you have the behemoth. Right? This is a very modern situation, right? The IRS has a lien on your behemoth, right? You can either give it, and since you can pay it off, but the paying off is only because they have a lien on your property. So therefore, even if you can pay off, the bottom line is, like we say today, the government is always a partner in your business, right? So it's a partner. Since you have a partner, therefore, you're not responsible for the firstborn. But Isas Aroina, in regard to dough, okay, where on the dough there's a 10% tax. The government in those days charged sales tax of 8.5%. If you guys, it is not even a joke. There's a pizza shop here in Borough Park that, of course, was pizzas paid with cash. So you understand the New York sales tax wasn't exactly being handled appropriately. Believe it or not, they came in, New York State sales tax came in and started counting the slice on top, every slice of the falafels. They have to cut open the falafel in order to put the stuff in. So they started counting all the leftover little slices of the falafel, and they started counting how many pizzas they were making. And they made a combination, exactly this. So they said like this, Isa, Isa Aruna Mechayeves B'chala. So even though there is a tax, which means that you have a partner within the challah obligation, because what's the rule when you're rolling dough and you make the challah for Shabbos? You have the challah for Shabbos with a small ches. You have to take off challah minat isa. You have to take off a small portion of the dough that you're using to make your bread, your challah, and pull off challah, which now goes to the kohen. They're entitled to that small piece of challah. You ever notice, right? It's so. Which today, of course, when we make our own challah, we go ahead and we take out those small challahs and we burn it together with the chametz on Erev Pesach. One of the reasons why it's here. So, Isas are running the chayev is b'challah. It's still chayev b'challah. This is even though that you cannot pay off the government. The government wants to have your business in this thing. It wants to be part of your bakery business. My tama, what's the reason? What's the difference between animals and dough? So this is an important thing. Behema isle kola, because an animal has publicity. Isa lesle kola, dough has no publicity. Meaning, animals are like real estate. Even today, we have the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Animals are changed on the thing, the price of an animal and all that. Everybody knows what's going on, and everybody knows the government wants their piece of the action. So everybody understands the fact that you're not giving over this firstborn. You're not giving over this firstborn to the kohen is because you have a partner in it. When it comes to dough, rolling dough, nobody knows. It's dough. Come on, my wife's in the kitchen making a challah, right? Who's paying attention, right? So if her neighbor comes to visit her and she sees her and she's not taking off a small portion of challah for the kohen, she's going to say, hey, what's going on? Try going to explain now. No, I really have a partner in here. There's a silent partner. The government said, where there's publicity, where it's out there in the thing, we understand. But where there is not, even though logically you have a partner and you shouldn't be responsible for the challah, nonetheless, we're doing it. I'm taking a 1 minute break because I'm just following along. I'm switching because I'm in the babysitting business for my granddaughter this morning. Okay, and so I'm going over here. We may have to break just a little bit. Okay. Jeff, can you still see me?
You're doing a great job.
Doing a great
and
job.
Your multitasking is terrific.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Tana Rabbanon, I got to figure out a place to put this thing. 1 second.
By the way, is this light behind you, the open shade, bothering you? I can close that.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
No, I can see your handsome profile. No problem. There you go. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. Yes. There we go. Can you see? All right, here we go. Wait. All right. If I get lost out of the picture, let me know. Okay, Jeff, you can still see me over there?
I see you, and I see Isaac as well.
Oh, right. Oh, Isaac, I don't see you. Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Isaac. You're looking great.
Talking about handsome faces.
Yeah, there we go.
The most handsome one is Marcel, who hasn't shown his face, but he's on.
So, hi, Marcel, all the way from Eretz Yisrael. How are you? Very good. So, Tanu Rabbanon. So they learn. Let's keep going back. Nochi shenichnach tzchatzeri shel Yisrael, a nochi that comes into the courtyard, as it were, of Eid, ubitzeika biyadei, and his challah, his chametz is in his hands. Ein zokuk levar, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. The Jew does not have to be obligated because, as we said before, the truth of the matter is you're allowed to see the chametz of a guy where you do not take responsibility. But if he do etzlai, but if the guy then deposits the chametz with you, the zokuk levar, now you have to dispose of it, because again, the idea is once he deposits with you, in other words, you're taking on responsibility. Yachid loy bayis, but this is important. If the Jew designates a room for the chametz, he says, no problem. Listen, you want to put your chametz, I'm not responsible. Here, there's a room in my house. You can put your chametz there. It doesn't even touch the chametz. He says, you put the chametz there. The whole thing is on you. Ain't zakuk levar. Then he doesn't have to be levar. Shenemar lo yimatze. You shouldn't find. So the Gemara says, "My come on, what are you saying? You're just saying ain't zakuk levar, where you designate a room for the guy, essentially like my case, where you have nurses in this room. I say this room where the baby is, right? Whatever you do in this room is your business, right? The chametz that you bring in here on Shabbos, what do you call it? Give me a second. Okay. So, Amara Papa Arei Shekoi. The pasuk, it's actually going on the beginning. V'hochi kama. Hipido etzloi. If the guy goes ahead and deposits with the Jew, zokuk levar, he's obligated to dispose it. Shenema lo yimotze. Right? It shall not be found. Right? That's what he's saying. Rav Ashi Omar. Very good. Okay. Oh, she's beeping because it went off. Okay. Rav Ashi Omar la'olam ha'seifa koi. Actually, it's talking about the seifa, which is hard to understand because we said if you give the guy a room, you don't have to check. V'hochi kama. Yachid lebayis. If the Jew goes ahead and designates a room of chametz, or for the chametz of the guy, and zakuk levar, he does not have to check. Shenema lo yimotze b'botechem. It shall not be found in your homes. V'hol lav dideyu. And this is not considered as if it's in your home because I have taken no responsibility for it.
Can I just ask one question? When is that responsibility that you pretty much sign off on? It's after the search. Are we talking?
After the search, correct. So what's saying here is he shows up on the morning of the 14th.
Okay, all right, that's my
Right?
question.
He shows up or even better, he shows up on Pesach. He shows up on Pesach.
But
about
that's obvious. I mean, but if he shows up on Pesach, yeah. But I was wondering when do you?
No, if he doesn't know. So he goes ahead and says, "Hey, Isaac, can you watch this thing for me? I got to go out of town."
Right.
So what you can say is no. You can say you answer him back. Listen, here's a room. Do whatever you want with that room, right? I got it right. But if you say sure, I can watch it, problem. They literally in the words, it's exactly the point here. Yachid loy bias, but if you tell him, here, a room, do what you want with it. Ain't zokuk levar shenema lo yimotze b'botechem. It shall not be found in your homes. V'hol lav dideyu, and this chametz is not considered his because he didn't accept responsibility. Achrayut, denochri ki kamoil. Because when the Gentile brings his chametz into the house, you notice the words Isaac. That's what we just said. When the guy brings it into the house, not that you help him take it out of his trunk. Lebeisa de nafshi kamal. It says if he brought it into his own home, he understood that you're saying, listen, here's the room, do what you want. I don't want to know anything about it. As soon as you can get away with that, we're good to go. Gemara says, Lamema. Now we get to a business isai here. This chiras kanya. Are you saying that a rental agreement affects acquisition? That's what it seems to say here. By saying to the guy, here, have a room for money, not for money, whatever it is. But you can have this room. It's yours. It's as if it's yours. Enough to say that regarding chametz, I don't have to worry about it. That's what it seems to be saying. Lamema deschiris kanya. That rental is literally an acquisition of the rental property, not just rights in the property, but essentially an acquisition. V'hatanya, even in a place where the Chazal say it's okay, you can rent to a guy. We're not talking about that you can rent to a guy a house, a place of dwelling in English. Because the goyim go ahead and bring in avodah zaros into there, and we're not in the business of allowing avodah zaros into our properties, into our homes. So the only place that you can rent to him is a storage home. But if you want to say that a rental agreement affects acquisition, not just rights, but actual acquisition. Kima Mail, when he brings in his idol, when he brings in his Avodah Zarah into the home, the base of the Nachika Mail, he's bringing it into his own home. If he rents it from me, what's happening in it, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What do I care? Once I rent the house to the guy, what happens in that house is not my business, right? So the Gemara, therefore, by the fact, so says the Gemara, you're right. The truth of the matter is, it does not affect acquisition. It affects rights, but it does not affect acquisition. So then, what's the case over here that I'm allowed to keep the guy's chametz? What's the difference? If it doesn't affect acquisition and the guy puts it into a room that you say he can have, why do I not? Now, why am I off the hook and I don't have to deal with his chametz? I don't have to dispose of his chametz. Ashani hacha, the apke rachmana beloshen lo yimatze, because the rachmana, the merciful one, the Torah Kedosha, uses the words "it shall not be found." Mi shematzu biyotcha. This applies that the chametz that is to be found in your hand, excluded from that is the chametz that's not found in your hand. What does it mean in your hand? It means that you have achrayut. Achrayut, responsibility. You are responsible. Responsibility determines ownership, as it were. If one finds chametz in his house on Yontif, what he should do is simply turn over a utensil over the chametz. And the reason for this is number one, the chametz is muksa. Since you're not allowed to touch chametz on Yontif, the chametz is muksa. If it's muksa, all you do is turn it over. Now, the fact is, and the reason for this is not because you have a problem, because you were mevatel. You nullified, when you search for the chametz, you then nullified all your chametz. You said, Kol chamira b'chamira de'ikabrishusi. All leaven that's in my house, it should be like the dirt of the ground. It's all there. So then why do I even have to worry about this? The answer is because we don't want you to forget, and heaven forbid, come and eat the chametz that you found. You might forget. Right? Amarava, but im shall hegdishu. But if the chametz is from hegdish, it's holy. It's already been given over, as it were, to go to the Beis Hamikdash. Einay tzarich. You don't even have to cover it up. My tama midvil bedile mine, because people all year long train themselves that when it comes to hegdish, when it comes to the holy, right? We go ahead. We separate ourselves from the holy. The chametz of a guy that's in one's house, he should make a partition of at least 10 tvachim high, of 10 handbreadths high. Again, why? To be a reminder, a heck. And eat. The im shall kedishu, and if it's chametz of hegdish, you don't even have to make a partition of 10 handbreadths. Because people are accustomed to separating themselves from it all year long. So once again, we have a real rule in the law. It's people are creatures of habit. And that even means good habits, of course. So if they have a habit that where something is holy, it's not a problem. Okay, just give me two. Everything's okay. Just the pulse ox went off. Oh, there it went back again. Okay. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. I'm sorry about this, guys. If one leaves his house to set out on sea, to taking a cruise on the seas, or by Yaitse Bishara, or he leaves to go in a caravan in the ancient times, not so ancient times, right? You went into a caravan, you had to get from one place to the next to the midbar. it automatically went ahead and obviously it took a very long time. Kaidim shleishim yom in before 30 days. That means before Purim, you do not have to dispose of your chametz. Toich shleishim yom, if it's within the 30 days, if it's within the 30 days between Purim and Pesach, you have to dispose of it. Amar Abaya, Hoda Amrit, that it says, Toich shleishim yom, zokuk levar. This which it says that within 30 days, you have to deal with the chametz even though you're going out of town. This is only if your mind intends, the intention is to return home during for Passover. But if your intention is not to return, ein zokuk levar. On this, you don't have to check. Amalei Rabba, but if your thought process is that I'm going to return back to Boca Raton for Passover, in that case, even if I go away Rosh Hashanah 6 months before, but if my plan is to get back there for Pesach, obviously I've got to deal with the chametz that's down there. So Abaye, what you're saying is not logical. Elo Amar Rava. Rava says, Hada Amrit. Before 30 days, you don't have to dispose. It's only where you don't intend to come back. But if you're going to return back to Boca Raton before Pesach, you got to go and you got to check. So if Marcel plans on coming back for Pesach, he's got to check the house for chametz. Simple. But as the Rubble Tameh. If somebody makes his home into a storehouse, so here's the situation: you have a storehouse, let's say in the backyard, you have a storehouse, and you put chametz there, and now you went ahead and you piled up a whole bunch of fruit produce on top of the chametz, so the chametz is buried underneath the produce. The rule is if chametz is around, but it's buried under rubble, it's considered as if it's been destroyed. There's Zok Gemara over here, in such a case where you had a warehouse that had chametz and you piled on top of it produce, Kaidim Shloshim Yom, Ein Zok Levar, before 30 days before Pesach, you do not have to dispose of the chametz. Taich Shloshim Yom, Zok Levar, you still have to. The Kaidim Shloshim Yom Nami, Yom Nami, that's only if you have no intentions of cleaning out the storehouse, the storage house. But if your intention is to take out the produce and clean out the produce before Pesach, which means you're going to re-expose the chametz, it means you still have to be mevar. Hani shloshim yom, ma'am aditayu. Where did this arbitrary 30 days show up? Something more Tanya. Like it says, Shoylin, Vigdarshin, Vihilchas HaPesach, Koidim HaPesach, Shloshim Yom. We go ahead and we start talking about the halachis of Pesach 30 days before Pesach. This is when the rabbi gets up and starts talking about it 30 days before. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel loyme, shtei Shabbos. No, 2 Shabbos from Rosh Chodesh on, it's enough. From Chodesh Nisan. Zakti Gemara, my Tama de Tanakama. What's the Tana de Tanakama? Okay, we're now on Amud Beis. And as always, we're going to try to pick up a little speed here. Sharei, Moshe Oime B'Pesach Rishon. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher, was standing by the first Carbon Pesach, by the first Pesach offering on the 14th of Nisan, Umazir al Pesach Sheni. And he was teaching the Jews about the idea of Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. Pesach Sheni is this: if somebody is tamei, means if somebody is defiled on Erev Pesach, he's not allowed to bring the Passover offering. What is the Torah Kedoshah says? A month later, we're giving you a month later to clean yourself up, and so that you can bring the Pesach, what's known as Pesach Sheni, the second Passover offering. Or if somebody is very distant, can't make it, that's the situation. Shenema Vayasu b'nei Yisrael es Pesach b'moyadai. Vayasu b'nei Yisrael es Pesach b'moyadai. And the children of Israel shall make the Passover offering in its b'moyadai in its appointed time. V'ksiv. V'anoshim asher hoyu tameim orf. So therefore, Moses was talking about persecution, and he was talking about Pesach days later on the 14th of ER. So therefore, you see, there's a 30-day period of talking about the laws of Passover. But Shimon ben Gamliel Malach, Aidi Demayri B'Mili de Pischa. No, Moshe was simply talking about the laws of Passover, and part of the laws of Passover, Maskelu L'Chomili de Pischa, is about all the laws of Passover, which include Pesach Sheni. So there's no proof that there's a 30-day what do you call window. So pray to Gemara, if that's the case, my time in the Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that he says you only have 2 weeks. You only get to talk about Passover for 2 weeks from Rosh Chodesh. Sharei Moshe Rosh Chodesh, because Moses stood up on Rosh Chodesh, Umazir ala Pesach, and started talking about what needs to be done for the Passover offering, for the carbon Pesach. Shenema, because it says, HaChodesh hazeh lochem Rosh Chodeshim. This month should be the beginning of the month. Fiksiv Dabruel Kol Adas Yisrael, speak unto the whole assembly of Israel, Lema, saying, Be'esel HaChodesh hazeh v'yitzchu lechem ish seh lebeis abayis. And it said over there, and on the 10th of the month you shall take for themselves each man a lamb of his father's house and hold it for 4 days. And as I discussed yesterday with Isaac, you can imagine what this was. On the 10th, they took the lamb, which was holy in Egypt, the same way cows are holy in India. And in other words, God was saying to them, was teaching them what it means to be a person of faith and belief, to take their idols, put it in your house, tie it up. So you're tying up their sheep that they hold holy, right? You can imagine the fear of the Jews that the priests of Egypt are going to rally the people to come and do a pogrom against the Jews who are attacking their gods, right? Nonetheless, that's exactly what was being done here, was the idea of breaking them of all these pagan ideas and the idea of the Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, monotheism. So it says like this. So therefore, what do we see over here? So therefore, Moses was talking about the halachos and telling them, HaChodesh says that this month, this is what you do. So he obviously was speaking at the beginning of the month. He was speaking at the beginning of the month. So therefore, that's 2 weeks, the beginning of Nisan till Passover. Dr. Gemara, who said he was speaking on the first day of the month? Who said he was speaking on Rosh Chodesh? Maybe he would call. Maybe he was talking on the 4th or the 5th of the month. So, hello, Amar Rabbi Mishmei de Ravina Mehacha. Vayadaber Hashem Moshe b'Midbar Sinai b'Shana Hashenish b'Chodesh Harishon. And Hashem spoke to Moses in the wilderness in the 2nd year, in the 1st month. V'ksiv Vayasu b'nei Yisrael es Pesach b'Moyadai. So there we go. He was speaking to him b'Chodesh Harishon in the 1st month, and he told him the laws of Passover. Dr. Gemara, who said Hashem was speaking to Moshe on Rosh Chodesh? How chinami? Mimai to be Yarchikai. Who said that he was standing there on Rosh Chodesh? Maybe that he was standing on the 4th or the 5th of the month. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Asher Midbar mi Midbar. We're going to make a comparison where in one pasuk it says Midbar, the wilderness, and another pasuk says the wilderness. The Miksiv Hacha b'Midbar Sinai. It's written over here in what we just said. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe, and Hashem spoke to Moses b'Midbar Sinai. B'Shana Hashenish b'Chodesh Harishon. This is in Parshas Baloischa in Sefer Devarim. Miksiv Hosam, and it says over there in the first parsha, Parshas Bamidbar. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe b'Midbar Sinai. On the 1st of the Chayv of the 2nd month, Ma'ala Halam. This was the census in Bamidbar. Parshas Bamidbar, Hashem commanded Moshe Rabbeinu to take a census of Klal Yisrael. And the pasuk there clearly states, "Be'echad lachodesh hasheni," on the first day of the second month. Mala hala b'rosh chodesh, avka b'rosh chodesh. Over here also b'rosh chodesh. Okay, because just like over here by the census it says b'midbar Sinai, just also by Passover it also says b'midbar Sinai. By Yidaber Hashem El Moshe b'midbar Sinai, we can compare Midbar Sinai to Midbar Sinai, just like over here by the census, it clearly states Be'echad l'chodesh hasheni, on the first of the second month. So too, therefore, we're going to say that when it talks about over there by Pesach, b'chodesh harishon, it's also talking about the first of the month. So to break the Gemara, a very interesting question, and we're just going to get to the two dots. We're just going to get to the two dots. V'nichtav bereisha the chodesh rishon, v'hod nichtav the chodesh sheni. Says 1 minute, things are out of order. Ba'aloischa talk. Pesach takes place in Nisan. About the census b'chodesh hasheni of Iyar, which was the discussion about Pesach, which took place in Chodesh in the second year in Chodesh Nisan, and then talk about the census, which took place in the second year in the wilderness, about which was in Iyar. Why was the story in Iyar brought in Parshas Bamidbar before the story of Baloischa, the story of Pesach, which was brought in Baloischa? Good question. And now we come to a major rule about the Torah. Amara Menashia about Tachlifa Mishmei the Rav, Zayis Aimeres Ein Muktamu Muchem b'Torah. This comes to tell us that the Torah is not written in chronological order. There is no, you cannot, things didn't, it's written in the Torah, it doesn't mean that it went linear. Sometimes it's not linear. The story sometimes is different months, different time periods. Freiti Gemara Amar Papa. Gemara doesn't ask. It explains this. Loy Amram. We only say this that ain muktim mucha b'Torah, that there is no chronological order in the Torah. Ela betray in yonei. It's only betray in yonei. Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta get my wife. Just hang on 1 second. Rachel, just give me, guys, hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. We finish this up in 1 second.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm saying he can multitask pretty well.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm back.
All right.
All right. Let's give me what do you call? We're almost done here. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. Welcome to my life. Anyways, here we go. So, Amar Papa, Lo Yamar Nelim B'Divrei B'Shrei in Yonim. This that we say that there's no chronological order. In other words, separated. There we say, well, one package could be about one time frame, and one passage could be about another time frame. But in one passage, my demuktim, what came first, my demuchim, what came last. Because if you don't say that, the Eloi Temahachi, if you do not say this, klalu prat, if everybody remembers, in the morning when we say kabbanis, we have the Bryce of Rabbi Shmuel with all the 13 rules of how we learn. And one of the rules is klalu prat, where the pasuk says, bring a sacrifice from all animals. All animals is a generalization. Then the pasuk goes ahead from cows, sheep, and goats, which is obviously a specific. So we say the rule over there is aim b'klal elamash b'prat. What's in the generalization is only what's now being defined by the prat. So when the pasuk says all animals, I might think agree from anything. Then it just brings a sheep, a cow, a goat. It's teaching us all animal means all domestic animals, not wild animals. That's how we get to the conversation. But Ein b'chlal l'masha b'prat. Dilma pratu klalhu, but perhaps it's, if we're going to say that it's out of order, then how can I tell you that it's first a generalization and then a specific? Maybe in reality it's a specific and then a generalization. So I can have no rules. If you can't create, you can only create rules if you can only create rules if you have some consistency. And the flip is the other way. Visu pratu klal. What happens if you have a situation where you first have a specific and then you have a generalization, and there are specific rules about that? Nasu klal moisif ala prat. The generalization comes to expand what the specifics is. But how could you say that dimul klal or pratu? Maybe the reality is that it's the opposite direction. Obviously, then within one thing, within one paragraph, there has to be chronological order. We're just getting to the two dots, literally right there. If that's the case, even in two passages, we should say that there has to be chronological order. This is good according to the Mandi Yama that says that if I have a generalization of specific and something that's specific, but they're very separated from each other. They're in two different, they're not written next to each other, they're two different paragraphs. Ain't done in prat shapit. We don't have any of the rules of generalization and specifics. That you could still do it. What are you going to say? If there's no order, if they're separated, there's no order, then how do we even have any rules? I says up to Gemara, and this is where we're going to stop. Even according to the one that says if they're separated, you could still have the rules of generalization and specification. That's only within one paragraph. In other words, they don't, according to this man, they don't have to be in the same pasuk or one sentence next to the next sentence. There could be a few. There could be a sentence here, and three pasukim later, you can go ahead and have the generalization or the specifics, as long as they're within one paragraph. But if they're found in two complete passages, even this man the Amma agrees. Ain donin, you do not expand. We have no rules of klal uprat, generalization and specification. And we made the two dots. Very good, everybody. So listen.